Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news tonight on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Union Cabinet removes restrictions on the export of pulses. It also approves setting up of the National Anti-Profiteering Authority under the Goods and Services Tax. As the air quality in Delhi and the National Capital Region improves, the Supreme Court mandated pollution control body withdraws the ban on construction activities and allows entry of trucks into the capital. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi greet the media fraternity on National Press Day. Both leaders uphold the freedom of press and expression. A key U.S. congressional committee has proposed to increase the minimum salary of H-1B visa holders from $60,000 to $90,000 per annum. Well, the Cabinet on Thursday approved setting up of National Anti-Profiteering Authority under the Goods and Services Tax, a move that will ensure that businesses pass on the benefit of the recent tax rate cuts to the consumers. In another big move, the Union Cabinet has decided to remove all restrictions on the export of pulses. With this, farmers will now be able to sell their produce at the fair market in the open market. The centre also approved the enhancement of the carpet area of houses for the middle income group category under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Under this, centre aims to provide houses to all the urban poor by 2022. The cabinet approval came at a meeting chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Minister of Electronics, IT and Law and Justice Ravi Shankar Prasad.
All the prohibitions on the export of pulses have been removed. And there is a very strong reason for it, because the Prime Minister has appealed and all of us had appealed requesting the farmers to increase their pulse productions. आज जो मुनाफा विरोधी अथॉरिटी की स्थापना की गई है कैबिनेट के निर्णय के द्वारा, ये भारत के छोटे छोटे बड़े कंज्यूमर्स के पक्ष में भारत सरकार खड़ी है। और इसका प्रावधान ये है कि एक स्टेट लेवल पर स्क्रीनिंग कमेटी मिलेगी, जो राज्य के गुड्स जो हैं वो, और अगर कोई ऐसा गुड्स है जिसका नेशनल रेमिफिकेशन है, उसके लिए नेशनल लेवल पर स्टैंडिंग कमेटी बनेगी। और कोई भी कंज्यूमर अगर उसको शिकायत है कि जो उसकी देनदारी है वो उसको नहीं दी जा रही है और मुनाफाखोरी हो रही है, वो शिकायत कर सकता है। और उसके बाद ये मैटर एंटी प्रॉफिटियरिंग अथॉरिटी के सामने आएगा और उचित कार्रवाई की जाएगी और निर्देश दिया जाएगा।
On Thursday, the Supreme Court mandated Environment Pollution Authority to withdraw the ban on construction activities, entry of trucks and enhanced parking fees from across Delhi NCR as the air quality improved. The air quality remained out of the emergency category for the second straight day. The measures, part of the Graded Response Action Plan, were enforced on November 8th after pollution levels had increased, hitting the emergency category, accompanied by thick smog. But enforcement on the closure of the Badarpur thermal power plant, ban on brick kilns, hot mix plants and stone crushers will continue to stay for a few more days. Meanwhile, NGT has directed Delhi government to submit data on ambient air quality of the last 2 days. The Green Court said it will reconsider its order of banning industrial activities in Delhi soon after.
जब तक भारत सरकार और सारे राज्यों की सरकारें इस पर मिलकर नहीं करेंगी, आप किसी एक राज्य के मुख्यमंत्री से 1000 बार भी सवाल पूछेंगे तो उसके पास समाधान निकलेगा नहीं। लेकिन कम से कम उत्तर भारत में समस्या है तो उत्तर भारत के सारे राज्यों के मुख्यमंत्री, केंद्र सरकार को पहल करनी चाहिए सबके साथ बैठ के, क्योंकि बात हवा एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव बाउंड्रीज में नहीं बसी हुई है, ये समझना पड़ेगा हमको।
Spiritual leader Sri Sri Ravi Shankar has arrived in Ayodhya offering to resolve the long-standing Ram temple dispute. Beginning the mediation, Sri Sri met with the Mahant Nritya Gopal Das, the chairman of the Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas. After the meeting, the spiritual leader said that it's an old dispute and will take some time to be resolved.
Spiritual leader Sri Sri Ravi Shankar arrived in Ayodhya to work out a settlement to the Ram temple Babri Masjid issue. Attempting to negotiate, he met with the chief of Ram Janmabhoomi Nyas, Mahant Nritya Gopal Das. Meeting other Mahants and religious leaders, Sri Ravi said that the issue is an old one and will take time to resolve.
मैं तो ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ मैं हल करने आया हूँ, मेरे पास कोई फॉर्मूला है मैं दे रहा हूँ रेडीमेड. मेरा यही अर्जी है, सबसे अनुरोध है, हमारे देश में इंसानियत की कमी नहीं है, स्नेह का कमी नहीं है, प्रेम का कमी नहीं है. सब लोग एक स्नेहपूर्ण वातावरण में फिर बैठे और इस मुद्दे का एक हल निकाल सकते हैं हम लोग.
However, several voices from both parties have opposed the mediation by Sri Ravi Shankar, saying none of the previous efforts for out-of-court settlement have been successful.
श्री रविशंकर जी को चाहिए रामलला का दर्शन करें और दर्शन करके संतोष मिलना हो मिलें और वापस चले जाएं. ये विश्व हिंदू परिषद ने लड़ाई लड़ी है, राम जन्मभूमि न्यास ने लड़ाई लड़ी है, हम लोगों ने खून पसीना बहाया है.
ये प्रपोजल तो मानेंगे नहीं मुसलमान कि आप बाबरी मस्जिद से वो अपना हक खत्म कर लें, उठा लें. इसके अलावा कोई प्रपोजल हो तो पहले विश्व हिंदू परिषद से बात करिएगा. अगर वो एग्रीड हो तो आप प्रपोजल लिख के हमारे वहाँ पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड के चेयरमैन या जनरल सेक्रेटरी को भेजिएगा, तो वो इसको देखेंगे. अगर
The central government has said that Sri Ravi Shankar's peace bid is in his own capacity and the government has nothing to do with it.
श्री रविशंकर जी का विषय श्री रविशंकर जी के पास ही रहने दीजिए, कानून मंत्री रविशंकर के पास मत आइए, ठीक है?
On Wednesday, Sri Ravi Shankar had a 40-minute meeting with UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath in Lucknow to discuss the issue. The Supreme Court will hold the final hearing in the matter from the 5th of December. Earlier, the Allahabad High Court had ordered the disputed land to be divided into 3 parts, against which all parties had approached the Supreme Court. Bureau Report.
Morgan Stanley Annual Conference in Singapore on India structural reforms and growth path ahead. Jaitley assured that India's economic issues have bottomed out and should now start moving upwards. Talking about the massive economic reforms undertaken by India, the finance minister claimed that 3 key structural reforms, Aadhaar, demonetization and GST, have enhanced transparency and helped in transition from cash to less cash economy. Assuring investors of a strong banking sector in India, he said, and I quote, "I think the bottoming out of the economy is complete and now it should start moving upwards." The global economy is also moving up. Our basic parameters are quite stable. And we grew between 7 and 8% over the last 3 years. Therefore, we need over the next at least a decade, if not more, significantly higher growth rates in order to go ahead with the expansion plan of the Indian economy. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi greeted the media fraternity on the occasion of National Press Day. In a tweet, the Prime Minister said a free press is the cornerstone of a vibrant democracy and his government is fully committed to upholding its freedom. He expressed hope that the media space will be used more to showcase the skills, strengths and creativity of the 125 crore Indians. He also lauded the hard work of the media, especially the reporters and camera persons who he said worked tirelessly to bring forth various news items that shape national as well as global discourse. Well, in other news now, President Ramnath Kovind is in Punjab today. After arriving at the Air Force Station at Adampur, he presented the President's standards to 223rd Squadron and the 117th Helicopter Unit of the Indian Air Force. Speaking on the occasion, the President said that India's rise in the international system has many dimensions to it, adding that it draws heavily from the capabilities and bravery of our armed forces. He further added, though we remain firmly committed to peace, we are determined to use all our might to protect the sovereignty of our nation. The President said every citizen of India sleeps securely because he or she knows that armed forces are there to protect them. This is his first visit to Punjab after taking over as the President of India. Well, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu today met with Singapore's Minister for Trade and Industry S. Easwaran. The meeting took place at the Vice President's house where a warm welcome was accorded to the visiting Singapore Minister. In the meeting, both leaders talked about bilateral relations between India and Singapore.
Excuse me. He's director from Ministry, the senior most. And see, now he is secretary to Vice.
Well, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu also met with Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan today. On the occasion of National Press Day, the Vice President Venkaiah Naidu also called for joint regulation of all types of media in the country. He said while self-regulation is desirable, there should be no discrimination between print and visual media.
Delivering the keynote address at an event on National Press Day, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu recalled his political experiences to state that media has always been free in India, barring the months of emergency. He said, media should use this freedom to raise the voice and concerns of people.
Undaunted by the ironclad restrictions imposed by the Britishers, the press remained fearless, and the same indomitable spirit continued to be a prominent feature of the Indian media ever since. Barring a temporary aberration during the infamous emergency, when the press behaved like the handmaiden of the government, of course, then also there were few exceptions. My salutations to the great persons, whether it is Ramnath Goenka.
The Vice President also suggested that one watchdog should regulate the working of all types of media. But he cautioned that this should not be coercive.
The sting operations, undercover operations, and rapid expansion of social media platforms, I think there is a need to bring all media organizations under a single watchdog body with whatever you can give it to. Because we always discuss there should be self-regulation is the best regulation. If there is a self-regulation, why is the need for many of us to go to doctors?
Vice President Naidu also spoke against the phenomena of paid news. He said media should not be a tool to promote business.
It is about the paid news. Paid news is a bad news. It's a wrong news. It's an information without confirmation. It's a wrong information. But that has also crept into Indian media. If I take the names and all, people feel that hurt. But everybody knows at the time of elections, candidates, how much money, in spite of all the best efforts by Election Commission of India, still the commission is taken.
Information and Broadcasting Minister Smriti Irani was also present at the occasion. Various journalists were presented awards for excellence in their field. National Press Day is observed every year on 16th of November. The Press Council of India was established on this day in 1966. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, in other news now, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi targeted Prime Minister Narendra Modi over the Rafale fighter aircraft deal. He asked the media why it didn't question the Prime Minister on the issue. The Congress claims that the Rafale deal was tailor-made to help Reliance Defence Limited, but the company has called the allegations baseless and unfounded. Taking on the media on other issues, Rahul Gandhi also asked why no questions were posed to the Prime Minister on Amit Shah's son, Jay Shah. Gandhi was speaking after his meeting with workers of the All India Unorganised Workers Congress. Meanwhile, the BJP rubbished the allegations, saying that the Congress's intention was to divert attention as the party's top leaders faced possible questioning in the Augusta Westland VVIP chopper scam.
ये आप मोदी जी से राफेल डील जो है इसके बारे में सवाल क्यों नहीं पूछ रहे हैं? और ये जो अमित शाह जी के पुत्र हैं इनके बारे में आप सवाल क्यों नहीं पूछ रहे हैं? ये क्या हो रहा है? आप मुझसे जो पूछना चाहो मैं पूछते हो, मैं खुशी से जवाब देता हूं, मगर प्रधानमंत्री जी जिन्होंने राफेल डील में पूरी डील को बदल दिया, एक बिजनेसमैन की मदद करने के लिए डील बदल दी, उसके बारे में आप उनसे सवाल क्यों नहीं पूछ रहे हो? मैं आपसे सवाल करना चाहता था.
Well, here's a roundup now of some other news from across the country and nationwide. Doctors of private hospitals in Bengaluru are on an indefinite strike. They are demanding that at least 4 contentious proposals in the Karnataka Private Medical Establishments Amendment Bill of 2017 should be dropped. Among other things, the bill proposes 6 months to 3 years of jail term and hefty penalty for medical negligence. Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has said that he will call representatives of protesting doctors to discuss their issues. Sri Lankan Navy today arrested 10 fishermen along with their boat on charges of entering into Sri Lankan waters. The fishermen have been handed over to Fisheries Department in Jaffna for further legal action. As per reports, with the latest arrests, the total number of Indian fishermen in Sri Lankan custody has gone up to 99. The Supreme Court today asked the CBI to file its reply on the plea filed by Karti Chidambaram seeking to travel abroad in connection with the INX media case. The CBI had sought more time to reply to the plea. The matter has been adjourned till Monday. It's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries.
Ghata, one of the oldest and most unique percussion instruments of southern India. You can play it not only with your fingers, but palms, wrists and heels as well. You'll be surprised, but the air inside the ghatam reverberates, creating the musical notes. 5 elements of nature, earth, water, air, fire and space make up the composition of this beautiful musical piece, which has found an apt place in most of the ancient books.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, a key congressional committee voted to pass a legislation which proposes to increase the minimum salary of H-1B visa holders from $60,000 to $90,000. The legislation also imposes a number of other restrictions on the work visa popular among IT professionals from India. A similar version of the bill needs to be passed by the Senate before it can be sent to the White House for the US President Donald Trump to be signed into law. The bill prohibits H-1B dependent employers from replacing American workers with H-1B employees. There are no longer any exceptions. It also lengthens the no layoff policy for H-1B dependent employers and their client companies for as long as H-1B employee works are at the company, which means that they cannot lay off equivalent US workers. News now from Zimbabwe, where the citizens weigh an uncertain future after the army took control of the government institutions on Wednesday. President Robert Mugabe continues to be under house arrest. News reports suggest Mugabe has been urged to step down peacefully, helping in a smooth transition of power.
A day after the military seized power, Zimbabwe remained in a political limbo. The streets of capital city Harare remained calm as heavily armed soldiers patroulled the streets. A series of meetings between political parties and the army took place through the day, and efforts to form a transitional government were said to be underway. The South African Development Community Regional Bloc sent envoys to Harare to help put an end to the political turmoil in Zimbabwe. There was no fresh report on President Robert Mugabe, who was placed under house arrest after the army took over. The whereabouts of his wife Grace, who was bidding to succeed him as president, remained unknown. Local media reports said a number of senior members of the ruling party, as well as those supportive of the First Lady, were detained. Zimbabweans reacted cautiously to the developments, awaiting the next steps of the military.
The intervention by the Zimbabwe army is very good because we are looking forward for a new Zimbabwe, a better Zimbabwe.
People woke up, went to work, and it's business as usual. No one is harassing anyone. We are just up and about doing what we normally do, and we are quite okay. I mean, we are a bit uncertain about what's going to happen, but we are still very much fine.
A joint statement by more than 100 civil society groups also urged Mugabe to peacefully step aside and help restore order in the country. A Catholic priest close to the Mugabe family was also reported to be involved with negotiations between the president and the military. Amid the political upheaval, countries urged their citizens to remain safe and limit unnecessary movements. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj said she was in constant touch with the Indian embassy in Zimbabwe and assured that all Indians there were safe. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, at least 9 people were killed and many others injured in a suicide bomb blast in the Afghan capital, Kabul. The blast took place near a gathering of supporters of regional leader Ata Muhammad Noor, the governor of the northern province of Balkh and a leader of the Tajik Jamiat-e-Islami party. A spokesman for the Interior Ministry said that the suicide bomber approached a hotel hosting the gathering in the Khair Khana district of Kabul on foot. The bomber tried to get into the building but was stopped at the security checkpoint where he detonated his device. The explosion was the latest in a wave of violence in Afghanistan that has killed and wounded thousands of civilians this year. US President Donald Trump touted the success of his recent Asian trip. He highlighted calls for China to implement fair and equitable trade practices with the United States. Speaking to media persons, Trump said that the days of the United States being taken advantage of are over. Trump returned to the US after a hectic 12-day trip to Japan, South Korea, China, Vietnam and the Philippines. Trump also called for joint efforts to tighten the screws on North Korea and its development of nuclear weapons in defiance of the UN sanctions.
President Xi recognizes that a nuclear North Korea is a grave threat to China, and we agree that we would not accept a so-called freeze-for-freeze agreement like those that have consistently failed in the past. We made that time is running out, and we made it clear, and all options remain on the table.
Well, here's a roundup now of some other news from around the world in Global Buzz. A 21-year-old Indian student was shot dead by 4 armed robbers at a grocery store in California. Dharampreet Singh Jassar was on duty at a grocery store when 4 armed robbers barged in to loot the store. Jassar hid behind the cash counter but was shot by one of the robbers. Jassar was an accounting student from Punjab. The police has arrested an Indian origin man who is believed to be one of the suspects. The UK government has announced that it will double the number of visas given to professionals from outside Europe in the field of technology, art and creative industry. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Theresa May as part of the post-Brexit strategy to present Britain as open to global talent. The number of visas available through the Tier 1 Exceptional Talent route will increase from the current 1,000 to 2,000 a year. A blast in a hotel in Argentine capital Buenos Aires injured at least 8 people. 7 of the 8 injured were hotel staff. Rescue workers and firefighters were seen evacuating people and putting out the fire. Firefighters speculate that a gas leakage from the laundry room of the hotel may have caused the blast. Well, the first test match between India and Sri Lanka at Kolkata's Eden Gardens was stopped due to bad light. After winning the toss, Lankans elected to bowl first. Sri Lankan pacer Suranga Lakmal took 3 wickets, including that of skipper Virat Kohli. India ended the day at 17 for 3 as rain played spoil sport. Lakmal claimed Lokesh Rahul with the first ball of the match and bowled 6 overs without conceding any runs. After the rain washed out the first session, India batted for only 11.5 overs before bad light ended play. Cheteshwar Pujara was on 8 and Ajinkya Rahane was yet to open his account. Here's a roundup now of some other sports news from the world of sports in Sportsbeat. Ace Indian shuttler and newly crowned national champion Saina Nehwal and H.S. Pranoy lost their respective games in the second round matches of the China Open Super Series Premier. Saina lost to 5th-seeded Akane Yamaguchi of Japan in the second round of the women's singles 18-21, 11-21. In the men's singles event, Pranoy lost to his Hong Kong opponent Yu Lee 19-21, 17-21. President of the World Anti-Doping Agency said that Russia will remain non-compliant with its code, dealing a major blow to the country's hopes of being cleared to compete at February's Winter Olympics. Russia's anti-doping agency has been suspended since a WADA report in 2015 found evidence of state-sponsored doping and accused it of systematically violating anti-doping regulations. WADA set out a roadmap for Russia to regain its status, but a meeting of its foundation board in Seoul decided that key criteria had not been met. Austria's Dominic Thiem defeated Spain's Pablo Carreno Busta 6-3, 3-6, 6-4. With the win, fourth-seeded Thiem kept his hopes alive of making it through the group with his final match against Belgium's David Goffin. The match will decide the second qualifier from the group after Grigor Dimitrov secured his place in the final four. And before we call it a wrap on this bulletin, an interesting story from the world of arts. A 500-year-old painting of Jesus Christ, believed to have been painted by Leonardo da Vinci, has been sold in New York for a record $450 million. The painting is known as Salvatore Mundi, which means Savior of the World. It is the highest auction price for any work of art. It depicts Christ in vivid blue and crimson robes and holding a crystal orb. According to Christie's, it is one of the less than 20 Da Vinci paintings still in existence. Well, that's it on this newscast. Good night.